Hello, fellow Americans. You are on the YouTube channel Common Constitutionalism, and I am Mitch. I talk about issues in our government, the erosion of our culture, the minimizing of our way of life, and the disregard for our Constitution. Keep your conservative voices active. Subscribe to this channel and listen as I talk about issues we are facing in our country and government. Visit my website, commonconstitutionalism.com. Enjoy reading my conservative blogs, and if you like them, maybe throw in a donation. While on commonconstitutionalism.com, go ahead and shop at the Sage Novelty Shop, where you will find shirts which feature our very own unique conservative political memes and captions. Display your conservative beliefs with pride. These items send a clear message without saying a word, or if you prefer, you can use them as a conversation starter. Come join my Facebook group, Common Constitutionalism, for discussions of topics, sharing of ideas, and interacting with others just like yourself who are proud to be Americans. It is unfortunate that even in a time of crisis, the Democrat politicians and the liberal media are unable to put politics aside and focus on healing America. There are pages of information I could put together to cover the wickedly fallacious pontification by liberals. In a moment, I want to talk about the two things every American should take away from this coronavirus pandemic. But first, I need to get a few facts off my chest, such as the ridicule the left hurled at President Trump over his January 31st, February 29th, and March 11 travel restrictions he enacted on China and Europe to counter COVID-19. Liberal politicians and media alike went ballistic, claiming the act was politically motivated, xenophobic, and racist. Yet there has been no criticism of other countries who put travel restrictions in place. While America is fighting to overcome the COVID-19 pandemic and the people are struggling every day, it seems like all we hear about each day is the childish political bias rolling out of each liberal politician and media outlet. I am sick and tired of them overlooking the people's struggles just so they can advance their agendas. Seriously, what is it going to take for liberals to get past politics and start caring for America? There are two things that every American should take from this COVID-19 pandemic. Number one is bring manufacturing back home to America. We cannot continue the outsourcing and offshoring manufacturing policies this country has engaged in since the 1970s. America has watched our manufacturing slip away to other countries beginning in the 1970s and 80s. Then between 1999 and 2011, these policies decimated our manufacturing ability within the United States. This sharp decline is solely contributed to President Clinton's legislation passed on May 24th, 2000. Many touted as the last great legislative victory of his presidency. On that day, the House of Representatives backed Clinton by voting to award China permanent normal trade relations, which gave China a membership to the World Trade Organization. Quickly to touch on the employment effect outsourcing and offshoring has had on the U.S. economy. In 2015, due to outsourcing, 14.3 million jobs were employed by our overseas affiliates. In 2020, the U.S. had 5.7 million unemployed. If we ended these current outsourcing policies and brought those jobs back home, we could have zero unemployed, leaving 8.6 million outsourced. Now, there are 4.5 million who are part-time but want to be full-time. If we were to use those 8.6 million outsourced jobs and turn the 4.5 million part-time jobs into full-time jobs here in the USA, we will still be left with 4.1 million jobs still to be outsourced, filling possible overseas need. In the meantime, we could potentially put every American to work who wants to work. Think about that a minute. Near a 0% unemployment rate. I realize 0% unemployment is a hypothetical number, as over 3% of Americans do not look to be employed. But still, the point is, outsourcing, we could change everything if we brought those jobs back to the United States. Let's get to the meat of my point as to why we must bring manufacturing back home to America. This COVID-19 pandemic has clearly shown how relying on other countries to supply the U.S. with essential goods is a very bad policy. America should immediately begin policy changes for manufacturing of essential goods such as medicines, medical equipment, manufacturing materials, defense equipment, defense manufacturing materials and components, natural resource supplies, etc. In this pandemic, China refused to ship much needed medicines, medical equipment, and medical personnel protective equipment to the United States. Other countries also refused shipment of badly needed supplies to the United States as well. I have always been against these outsourcing and offshoring policies, mostly because I feared this very issue. I do not believe a country should put their future at risk by handing critical economic infrastructure, manufacturing, technology, or defense over to another country. During times of national emergencies caused by pandemics, epidemics, severe weather, or war, it is important for America to be self-sufficient. The United States should not ever again be dependent on another country for our survival. Number 2, controlled borders are necessary for national security. The very real and necessary policy of controlling America's borders is for the obvious reasons of national security. Some of the threats to national security which controlled borders would greatly reduce include illegal immigration, terrorism, drug smuggling, sex trade, criminals entering our country, and stopping pandemics or even bioterrorism from coming inside our borders. Now understand, I am not just talking about land borders. I am talking about controlling entrance by land, sea, and air. If there is something that every American had better have learned during this pandemic, it is how easy it was to infect a large portion of our population secretly. The viruses since 2000 which have made it inside our borders, such as SARS, H1N1, MERS, and now COVID-19, are all deadly. It was bound to happen. These viruses have been around for a long time. But as the world population grows, people interact more and more with wild animals. Also, with increased populations, overcrowding occurs, making certain areas less sanitary. Throw on top of that the ease of international travel. Virtually every corner of the world is only 20 hours away. Lack of countries' borders recognition, the over-concern of political correctness, and the me attitude in today's world The dominoes are in place for the perfect storm, as we are now finding out with COVID-19. As viruses continually mutate, our vaccine and medicines have to change with the illness, causing new and stronger strains of the illnesses. I do firmly believe as a country our views on socializing, sickness, travel, manufacturing, immigration, and our borders must change. The world has changed around us, but still, as a country, we are still using policies that are 50 years old. Our manufacturing and border situation is for bygone years. It is past time for America to change these policies. The United States should never be in this position again. When I speak of controlled borders by land, sea, and air, I mean it literally. We must be able to stop everyone trying to cross our borders via land, sea, or air illegally, with no exceptions. International air travelers entering the United States through our air terminals and our airports is another very big failure. We must be able to thoroughly vet every traveler entering our country. I don't give a damn about a little inconvenience to Americans. We are talking about the survival of the United States of America. The economical cost alone for the COVID-19 pandemic to this country is staggering. $2.3 trillion already in stimulus money, probably $4 trillion when it is done, plus possibly another $10 trillion in lost GDP. The fact is, America, we cannot afford to do this again. I suppose the economy should return strong in a few years with President Trump at the helm, but we must make some aggressive policy changes, and we must do it in a hurry. The United States was in no way prepared for this pandemic, neither at the state or the federal level. As a country, we must make changes right now. We do not live in the same world today that we lived in 50 years ago. I do not believe we would come out of another pandemic or bioterrorist attack and be the same country we are today. And as always, you can read this full article and many others on my website at commonconstitutionalism.com. And your vote does matter. Be sure and vote this fall, November, in the presidential election for 2020. Let's see what we can accomplish here. My aim is to create a loyal following so I can continue bringing awareness to these kinds of issues. We will talk about issues in our government, the erosion of our culture, the minimizing of our way of life, and the disregard for our Constitution. I would appreciate you all exploring, donating, subscribing, joining, and shopping on my sites. You will see them displayed at the beginning and the end of the videos. Until next time, this is Common Constitutionalism, and I am Mitch. Thank you, America.